All right. Here we go, guys and gals. And boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's go racing, drivers.
And we're back for season 2, episode number 19 of the
Love it.
Loose Wheel podcast. Ethan is there in California. I am not in California. I'm still in
No.
Arizona. I don't live in California.
It's a
Yeah.
lot colder where I'm at, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. No one needs to know about the weather. Anyway, let's get into the review.
Harsh.
And now for last week's race reviews.
Spa. They went to the spa in Belgium.
I think you made that joke last week.
Yeah, I'm gonna make it 2 more times this season when the Formula One goes to the spa. So people of the world can look forward to that.
We love the puns.
Yeah, we do. Anyway, couple of highlights from the race I did not watch, but 20 BMW tagged the 38 Jota Porsche, sending it into the 46 BMW for the GT cars. It was a bad day for the BMW GT team. So yeah, and we'll see maybe a reversal of fortune for the other Jota Porsche. Anyway, and at this time, the Ferrari dominated 51 over 50, 1-2. Toyota was just not good this was the last weekend. So yeah, and then there's a major incident on the Kemmel Straight. The two Cadillac was battling the 99 Porsche and hypercar, and then the two swiped the 31 BMW, causing them both to crash. And that was the other GT BMW. So both of them ended up on the wrecker, the tow vehicle, whatever you want to call that. Not how you want to have that happen. But there was a 2-hour cleanup for that. So yeah, that's kind of big. So it was a battle going for hypercar between the 12 Jota Porsche and the 6 regular Porsche. Everyone else needed emergency service, so everyone in the order got swapped to the back and then had to pit under green because that's how emergency service works in the WEC. The 12 held off the 6 to win the race, and the 50 Ferrari, they finished third. Elsewhere in your GT cars, last lap move swapped to the two Manthey Porsches, the EMA beating the pure racing Porsche, the 91 over 92. The 85 Lamborghini had a contact with some Toyota, forcing it out of the race. Other retirements were the 95 McLaren gearbox oil leak. You had the 5 Porsche crashed out at Blanchimont while running third. The Lamborghini 63 suspension failure, and the 81 TS Sport Corvette with a gearbox issue. Moving stateside to Laguna Seca with the IMSA series, I will say it's a shame that the two most prominent sports car series with less than a dozen events in each series can't figure out to like not have clashing dates. How hard does it have to be? There's like 50 weekends a year. You could probably figure out, say, okay, I think there's 20 weekends a year where these two series run. Why do we have to have them on the same weekend, guys? Think smarter, not harder. Or whatever. Anyway, Laguna Seca, 0-1 Cadillac. My pick, led early. You had I don't know, my notes are out of order for some odd reason. Yeah, anyway. Yeah. There was one full course yellow, and that was from the 7 Porsche having debris. 31 had pitted before with that it cycled to the lead. 31 was passing a GT car and it got swept off course shortly, which the hypercar passed it. Last stop, the 6 and the 01 didn't take tires, and the 6 went on to win. Yeah, and this win got Penske. It's a 100th sports car win, and as Porsche gained its 600th in IMSA. Always Penske is what they always say in the IndyCar broadcast, Penske perfect, and they're always the benchmark in IndyCar, NASCAR, IMSA, wherever they go, they're always great. And then Porsche being the long-time manufacturer, they're gonna get wins all the time because they are a great manufacturer. In a GT Pro, the 4 led early, and then the 9 McLaren led for the first time. That's the first time that team has led as the McLaren. They switched over this year. And then on the restart, the 77 took positions quickly ensuing and then never relinquished the lead. The 557 in GTD regular, they passed with 45 early, and the 557, which is normally the 96, is the 557 because Turner Motorsport has 557 starts with BMW, breaking the record of most starts with BMW. So that's why they ran the 557. And then they were leading until they weren't, which was when they were getting passed by a GTP car. They went off and lost the lead to the 57, who went on to win their 3rd win this season. Moving over to the Indy Road Course. Well, Christian Lundgaard, the outside pole. This is a race I actually watched, by the way. Lundgaard, the outside pole, got the lead on the start on Pelot, who ran wide. 30, who caused a wreck early. Well, not a wreck, but a bunch of cars scurrying into the grass. Had a let one pass penalty. A lot of cars in the grass, T1. I think it was a half dozen. The 28 ran the 26 off their teammates. That's Ericsson on Herta. So interesting drama there. For that, Ericsson had a let 5 cars pass penalty. A lot of big moves in the back going on. A lot of racing from about 15th on back. You had the 14 of Santino Ferrucci run Roman Grosjean in the grass and then proceed to lose 3 spots in the next couple corners because of that move. 60 car of Felix Rosenqvist ran wide in the grass. Had a calm period for a while where nothing happened. Cars pitted under green. Power passed Pelot for 2nd on the outlap. Order at this point was Lundgaard, Power, Pelot, Dixon, Newgarden. The 60 car ran off again with Rosenqvist, and which was the only really notable thing that happened in that segment of the racing. Cars began pitting again. Pelot overcuts leaders to get to the lead. The order was now Pelot, Lundgaard, Power, Dixon, Armstrong. Cars pit. And then Luca Giotto, I pronounced it right this time. Took
Good
me
job,
only
dude.
3 weeks. Luca Giotto spun, stalled. I can say Giotto, but I can't say stalled. Spun and stalled, causing a full course yellow. 3 car was still out, which this benefited him as he was running around 16th all day. McLaughlin, he wasn't having a good day, but that caution caught him out at a good time, and he fell only to 6th. At around this time, Santino Ferrucci retired due to a car issue, some sort of something happening. The order's this point still Power or Blow, Power, Loongard, uh, Dixon, Armstrong. On restart, Harvey and Newgarden almost wreck battling for last on track. So that was interesting to see, but nothing happened the last 10 laps or so. Polo won. So yeah, fairly boring race. One on strategy. That's what the Indy GP is. We don't need. I think this is the only one this year, which is I'm happy. A lot of people are happy about. And yeah, and now I think a few people will be wanting that race to be eliminated, including myself, but I don't think it'll be happening anytime soon. But yeah, Darlington happened. But before I go into the talking about Darlington, top throwbacks for Cup, Ross Chastain, Kaz Grala, William Byron, and Daniel Suarez, great throwbacks. There's beautiful schemes I liked. And Xfinity, I liked Parker Retzlaff, Brennan Poole, Chandler Smith's an underrated one, and Shane Van Gisbergen as well. And then trucks, Corey Heim, Lawless Allen, and Jack Wood were my top three favorites. Ones I liked. You can find them all on. I'm not sponsored by them, but jski.com has them all there. If you want to look,
Could get sponsored.
that would be nice. I'd like to have money in my pocket from this, but I don't yet. Keyword
Yeah.
there's yet, kids. You just
Yeah.
watch. Yeah, stage one, Tyler Reddick leading from the pole. Surely he'll have a impact on how this race ends. Pit stops happen. After the pit stops, Ty Gibbs, who did a short pit, came out with the lead with Byron, Larson, Keselowski, and Reddick, just because pitting early, the tire wear is so huge at Darlington, you go fast for those few laps and make up a lot of time.
That was a great analysis.
But I'm not done yet. But when that happens, when going to the rest of the stage, you're slower than everyone else, and you'll get past. And that's what happened to Ty Gibbs as Kyle Larson passed him and wound up winning stage one. Stage two. After the caution, Tyler Reddick with the number one pit stall, Ethan, went to the lead. Just that short amount of distance from going on and off pit road saves you a couple seconds, and that's how he was able to go from fifth to first. The order was Keselowski, Gibbs, Larson, Truex. Reddick got the lead on the start. John Hunter Nemechek spun yellow, and then under caution, he spun heading to pit road because there was no right front tire rather, basically on the car. It all burned out because that's what happens when you spin. After the yellow flag cycle, it became Reddick, Gibbs, Keselowski, Blaney, Truex, and then there was on the restart immediate caution. Byron put Truex and Blaney 3 wide, caused damage to those two cars, Blaney and Truex, and then Buescher and Larson took some damage. Blaney retired. He pulled up to Byron before he retired. Just to let him know he was not happy with him. Under the caution, you had another group people, everyone pit again. Reddick, Keselowski, Gibbs, Byron, Logano. 71 of Zane Smith spun. We had another group round of pit stops. Reddick, Keselowski, Gibbs, Logano, Byron. And Reddick won stage 2. So boring race at this point. Stage 3, after the cycle happens, you had Reddick, Keselowski, Byron, Larson, Logano. Reddick leads. A few cars pitted a bit early. I think they're going to try to do a 2-stop strategy in stage 3 when everyone else was doing a 1-stopper. But that really didn't do anything because eventually Keselowski passed Reddick, and then shortly after that, Kyle Larson, bang, in the wall spins. Leaders pit. Well, at this point, actually Larson didn't spin yet. I lied. But leaders pit. Keselowski, Reddick, Gibbs, Buescher, Byron. That's the top 5 after that. Then Larson spins with a left rear flat. And under the caution, guess what happened, Ethan?
What happened?
With the number 1 pit stall, Tyler Reddick is able to jump Keselowski, who fell to 2nd. Buescher 3rd, Gibbs 4th, Byron 5th. And then they went green. And then starting with about a little less than 28, about 30 to go, somewhere around there. Keselowski and Reddick had this insane battle, battling for the lead for from that restart, actually, they were just battling. Because Darlington's a tough track to pass. It's so narrow. It's really 3 lanes wide. And when that's the narrowest track on the schedule. If you go to Michigan, that's 8 lanes wide. But Darlington only 3 lanes wide, and there's only 2 usable lanes in each corner. So and that being said, the top is way better than the bottom. So but Keselowski was driving his tires out with an insane battle. Ben Buescher comes up. He gives Keselowski a shot into the corner. Didn't really help him as much as I would have expected, and then on a couple laps later, Buescher went 3 wide and he passed them both. Then some laps go by and Reddick's coming up on Buescher. Then he slide jobs Buescher, but he was not even close to clearing him. So they just kind of wrecked, went into the wall. Didn't really wreck. They just went into the wall. And then they had flat tires, so they both had to pit. Then Brad Keselowski, he just passed them both. Brad ending his triple-digit race winless streak, and Ross Chastain completes the All 40 challenge by finishing 11th. Now he's finished on all 40 positions, joining Allmendinger, Blaney, Bowman, Buescher, Busch, Byron, Hamlin, Johnson, Jones, Logano, Reagan, Stenhouse, and Truex. A couple drivers are 1 away. You've got Daniel Suarez, 39th. Down needs 2nd. Larson, 22nd. Keselowski, Austin Dillon, Chase Elliott, and Bubba all need 40th. The most likely of these things to happen is Larson finishing 22nd, I expect. But we'll see who's the next driver to finish the All 40 challenge. But at the end of the day, a good race, not great. Just a lap. If you just watch the last 40 laps, and you would be amazed. That's a great last 40 laps, or whatever it is. First 200 or whatever, it was very forgettable. So, race. I've seen better. I've seen worse. So, yeah.
And now for the news.
Ethan, let's get into the news now.
Let's do it.
Um, Teddy Pork Chops, Teo Pourchaire to complete the season for Arrow McLaren outside the Indy 500, and Callum Ilott will be competing for the Indy 500 for Arrow McLaren. Again, David Malukas was supposed to drive that car. He didn't because McLaren said no, basically. I'm still upset about it. I'm still bitter about it. And yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's very fair to be upset and bitter about it, but Teo Pourchaire is an amazing driver. This probably takes him out of F1 consideration in the future.
I don't
Um,
think so.
you don't think so, really?
Here's why. I do think the steak sour kick is still gonna want him.
I
It's
mean, I would
just
think so because, he's an amazing talent and he's essentially been a Sauber prodigy for
yeah.
forever now, it feels like. But
I
you don't really see drivers go back over to European open wheel after
hmm
uh IndyCar unless it's like Formula E.
yeah, but I don't think the plans are changing. I just think it's a better opportunity than Super Formula for
Mm,
Tail.
maybe.
I I
I
I would
think
I would tend to believe
Super
that.
Formula is a little more similar to F1, I
Yeah,
want to say.
I would agree with that.
So if I'm Sauber, I don't know if I like him really competing in IndyCar that much. I don't know.
I think it's a lot more intense racing. Well,
That's definitely, well,
I don't
I
watch
actually
Super
can't
Formula,
say that's
but
true because I don't watch Super Formula, but
I
I mean,
would I would
it
tend
is
to
more
believe
intense racing than F1 anyway.
yeah,
So it,
that's not a
on
hard bargain.
average at least. So yeah, there's that aspect of it, but I don't know. It
Uh,
will be interesting to see how this plays out in the future,
yeah,
but for the moment, even though, yeah, the David Maluka situation is unfortunate, McLaren is signing a really, really nice driver for the
Mhm.
rest of the season.
Yeah. And if he doesn't go to Formula One, I would expect him to drive the six car next year.
Yeah.
But uh and with Cal Milot's I would not a veteran, but a guy who can take the program and be fast. He can get up to speed quickly rather than bringing in someone else. Uh, anyway, yeah, not much to say there. Pratt Miller hitting pause on the IndyCar team plans. I feel that this is kind of be well, it's because the engine lease is clear cut and dry because Chevrolet just doesn't and Honda don't have enough engines to supply all these teams, which is why IndyCar needs a third engine manufacturer, and it's been known that way for a while. But I think another thing that people aren't talking about is this charter thing that IndyCar is having, where all the teams are guaranteed a spot except for four. And this is assuming Prema comes next year for all the races except for the Indy 500,
Hmm.
which would scare you off because the two teams that wouldn't be guaranteed are two of the Ganassi four or five and two of the Prema. And depending on who Ganassi has, if it's Dixon and a Pillow, you're not going to outqualify those guys on 9 out of 10 weeks. And more realistically, it's probably going to be Lundqvist or Armstrong as one and Kiffin Simpson as the other. There's a 50-50 shot you'll outqualify Simpson because he's a not develop. I'm probably not a developed enough driver for IndyCar, but he's still good enough because it's got Ganassi equipment, and Ganassi equipment can carry people to places where they probably shouldn't be. Look at Kevin Simpson. And then if you go with Lundqvist and Armstrong, those guys are good enough, but you'll have more of a 20% chance of beating one of those guys on any given week because they are solid drivers nonetheless and could become the next Scott Dixon or Alex Palou. It's quite possible because they're both young and improving, which is what you want to see if you're Ganassi. But anyway, it's interesting. And finally, IndyCar confirming the hybrid debut for Mid-Ohio. We'll see if it actually happens at Mid-Ohio this time because Mid-Ohio is in, I want to say, 3 races time. It is 5 races time. So that's July 7th, not quite 2 months from now, so they can possibly delay it some more, like they have been. I don't know. I want to be optimistic, but the way this has gone, I'm still pessimistic about it. We'll see. Moving over to the NASCAR side, Michael McDowell to Spire Motorsports on 2025 on multi-year deal. This will be the 71, replacing Zane Smith. And I said on that last episode, there's always a good surprising silly season move. I didn't expect to be Michael McDowell because Michael McDowell, he's took Front Row Motorsports to 2 victories. I think that's 2 of their 3 victories they've had. Come to my head, with David Reagan winning way back, but long before. That's another story for another time. It surprises me because Mike McDowell has built, and along with Front Row Motorsports, became a threat where you can't say, oh, they're just going to run out there, finish 26th each week. You'll say, oh, they can lead some laps at a random track like Gateway. I think it was last year or the year before. It's like, what's McDowell doing up there? It's like if a Visa Cash App RB just decided to randomly lead a race on pace. It's like, huh? Like you would not expect that happening. So that's kind of what. So they've kind of became a force all of a sudden, and he's moving to Spire, who's like Front Row, an up and coming team, but they're like a step and a half behind, or a half step behind. But what Front Row didn't do that Spire is doing, Front Row only gave McDowell a 1-year deal each year. That's how they do their business. That's just how they always done it. Now Spire, multi-year deal, you get a little bit safer there. So who knows? We'll see. Cam Waters, he's making his NASCAR Cup debut, RFK Racing Stage 60 entry at Sonoma. Another Supercars driver heading over to NASCAR. This will be in the last 2 years. He'll be the 3rd one. Will Brown also doing that race for Richard Childress Racing, becoming the 3rd and 4th one of however you want to do it. So yeah, of these recent super guys coming over, first one and most successful being Shane Van Gisbergen. So I think you see his influence coming over. My expectations for Waters, he's going to run around 27th all day probably. It's tough. NASCAR's been going to Sonoma since forever. It's not going to be rainy. Probably not. But yeah, that's just how it is. It's just tough. Arguably the biggest news of the week. NASCAR, Amazon, and TNT to run 1 million in season tournament during 2025. There's going to be 3 races set to set field by best finish, tiebreaker being second best finish, and then points. And then it'll be a 5 races knockout style bracket to get to a winner. How do you feel about this, Andrew? You're asking.
Andrew, how do you feel about this?
Why? I'm glad you asked. Um, I don't like it, but I'm not hating on it yet because I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it in play yet. The Xfinity Series has its Dash for Cash.
I feel like this is pretty cool.
Truck Series has Triple Truck Challenge. I guess this will be the Cup Series version of that. It'll be interesting to see how it goes out, just because it's how will it affect the dynamics. Let's say it's let's just say it's like Buescher and Keselowski, who are running around 10th every race.
Yeah.
The strategy there is, will you go for the win or will you go to beat the other driver? That's going to be interesting to see how that dynamic plays out. Is it a gimmick? Yes. Will
It's
it work?
very
I don't know.
it's very gimmicky for sure, but I kind of like it. Like at the very least, it got someone like me who I watch, a few NASCAR races throughout the year. And then the rest I kind of just either watch highlights or just listen to your recaps. But so as a fairly casual NASCAR fan, this has got me to say, "Oh, that's pretty cool." And that's what the point of this is, for just to drum up more interest, and I think that it will succeed in that.
On a similar note, I saw Amazon Prime, their first race will be the Coca-Cola 600. That was unexpected. That was expected to be a Fox race. That's interesting to see. But anyway, Ethan, you wrote this next piece of NASCAR news down.
Rare
What do you have to
NASCAR
say
news.
about that?
Yeah, rare NASCAR news contribution from me. I saw I actually saw an article from about a month ago saying that NASCAR is looking for an oval track in Europe to do a race on, and now I haven't heard any follow-up news on that, and I really don't know the validity of the report. I'm not saying it's wrong, I'm also not saying it's right, but just, Andrew, how would you feel about that? Like, this is more of a conversation piece than a news piece.
Um, I don't I NASCAR for the past, I don't know however many years, since saying, "Oh, we want to do an international race." Well, why don't you make it happen? And they haven't yet. Granted, there has been the COVID pandemic recently, and as recently as 2019, the Truck Series, as a matter of fact, went up to Mosport, Canadian Tire, whatever you want to call that track, and had a lot of racing there. And I liked their racing there. I thought it was great. I don't know why they stopped. I want to see it return.
Yeah.
Would that be my first choice? A track in Bowmanville, Canada? No. Um, I do think with NASCAR goes international, it won't be Europe. It'll be Canada or Mexico. I possibly Montreal, circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Uh, Gilles Villeneuve. I can't think in words today, I guess. I think that was linked to this year's schedule. Obviously didn't happen because we're not going to Canada this year. Maybe next year's schedule that could happen there. And there's been rumors about doing an oval track in Mexico. So I don't know. I want to see it happen, but I feel like every so often, oh, we're gonna do go na someone saying NASCAR is gonna go international. Hasn't happened yet. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting proposition, kind of like the previous thing we talked about. I think um it would bring a little bit of interest into the sport, for sure. Especially an international audience, because you know you're competing, even though extremely different, and we always talk about how different it is. The European stuff and the American stuff, as in like F1 and NASCAR, and then there's also uh the endurance racing. They're all very different, but they all do kind of compete against each other
Yeah,
in a way. And if NASCAR was able to develop a little bit of an international audience, I think that would go a long way. But
I wholeheartedly agree.
like you said though, this this is something that always gets brought up every so often and never really it comes to fruition, but it would be cool. Like there are some cool, and like the what I read specifically was talking about an oval. And like there are some interesting ovals outside of the US or even North America. I mean, there's
Monza Oval. Monza Oval. Make it
all right,
happen.
dude. Um, some
Cool. It's
tracks
a cool place.
some tracks that can actually support a race in their current condition. Like there's a track in the UK called it's like Rockingham, I believe it's called. It's basically a mini Pocono. Like that would be really interesting. And then there's Motegi in Japan, which I mean,
That's fallen. I thought that fell into a state of Monza Oval.
mm, I don't think Rockingham or Motegi.
Motegi, because the IndyCar used to race there. I think, well, with repairs, I think they could race there. But I
Yeah.
do think the oval fell there into disrepair. I think the road course is still functional.
The I I believe maybe it's Super Formula, might not be. I know some series races on a roval format at Motegi, so at least part of the
Yeah.
oval is functional. Um, there's another track in Australia called the Thunderdome. I'm using shout out to Racing Aerials, historic racetrack aerials on Twitter. This is where I'm getting like ideas for tracks.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean that would all of those would be an option. There's a track in Germany. I'm gonna absolutely butcher this, but Laus's ring, I believe, would be my best guess at the pronunciation. It's like similar to Pocono. It's a 2 mile tri-oval type track, so I don't know. It's something interesting. So yeah, I don't know. Options.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. And for the final bit of NASCAR news, Jimmy Johnson to join NBC Sports coverage of the Indianapolis 500 Select Cup races. Um, I think he could have some great insight. Has done both IndyCar and NASCAR. And yeah, I think he'll be fine. It'll be better than the waste of space on the broadcast that's all better known as Danica Patrick. But
For sure.
yeah, the one thing NASCAR, IndyCar, and F1 fans can all agree on, Danica Patrick is terrible at broadcasting, and she needs to not have a job.
Yeah.
But with that being said, we're going to translate over to as Ethan is either dying or laughing or
Well, I was
becoming,
laughing and then I started dying.
yeah, also sounded like you could be becoming a fish and blowing bubbles on under some sort of water. I don't know
I can
what,
promise that is not what was happening.
but anyway, F1 Chicago, unconfirmed but all but confirmed of
Yeah, they signed
happening.
a contract. I mean, it's happening.
Well, they haven't announced that they signed
They
a
haven't announced it, but the
contract.
contract is signed.
And how do you feel about it, Ethan?
Um, Mixed, because it's another street race, which oftentimes aren't the best. If we're gonna have another race in America, try to convince whoever owns what's it called? Watkins Glen to upgrade the circuit to FIA one status, or go back to the Indy Road course or something. There's so many good road courses in the United States that I would much rather see racing at than the streets of Chicago, because street races, unless it's a really good street track or, you know, conditions that we don't normally see in F1, like Las Vegas last year, it's not really a type of track style that suits Formula One. So that's not really, I don't really like it from that perspective. To all the people, the Europeans mostly, complaining about another race in the United States is so insanely massive that it's like you can't even understand. Like, you overlay the US over a map of Europe, like it's like they're racing in multiple countries distance wise. So
Yeah, yeah,
it's
to add on to that,
yeah.
if you're going off of size base alone and spread it over like the 6 countries or continents rather, Europe's gonna wind up like 2 races because Europe's small in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
So like, don't complain in terms of having another race in America. Yeah, it's a street race, but like there's there's correct things to complain about.
Yeah.
Would we rather go to Africa? Yes.
Yeah, I'd rather go
Would
to Kailami than Chicago.
would we rather go to maybe another South American race or a Central American race?
It's a pain.
Probably.
It's a pain.
Or Sepang somewhere in Asia
Malaysia.
somewhat. Yeah, or another Asian track, Korea, India, wherever.
Yeah. So, I mean, honestly, I guess I said it was a mixed bag, but talking through how I feel about it, I don't really have any positives besides it pisses off the pretentious
Yeah.
F1 fans. That's always a positive. Um,
Uh,
but
uh,
yeah, I don't know. It's we'll see. Like, we'll see. We'll see. Everyone was saying that Las Vegas was going to be the worst race of all time, and it ended up being a really interesting race, but that's not because of the track. The track is bad. It was weird conditions that made the race interesting. So,
yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not that excited, but we asked very good friend of the podcast, honestly at this point, unofficial third member Morgan Tremmel, F1 fan and Chicago area native, his thoughts on the what's happening, and his that audio clip will play now.
Now,
Hey, what's up? This is Morgan. I think honestly the race in Chicago, it's kind of a good idea, bad idea kind of thing for me. because I feel like, on the one hand, I think some of the proposed layouts and the things that could happen with that are good. It won't obstruct traffic like it did with Vegas and some other street circuits. And, Chicago's a big area, but on the other hand, it's another American street circuit, which I think we already have too many of those. And for a new race, I feel like there's better places it could have been, European pre-built tracks, things like that. And I mean, so it's kind of just a mixed bag, honestly. A lot of good, a lot of bad potentially, but I think overall I'm excited as a Chicago resident. I think it'll be cool to see an F1 race here if it does happen. And it's one of those things where I think we'll just have to see how it pans out, because it could be a really good race or it could be a really bad race like, Miami ends up being. So it's a toss-up.
Yeah. Okay.
And yeah, one thing that I will have to add is I do think this race is all happening because of how successful the NASCAR race was there on the
Yeah.
other streets of Chicago, which is very close to the Formula One track, but not on, they don't overlay. So that's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think an oversaturation of the market could be an issue,
Yeah, that's a good point as well.
but you've seen Las Vegas be able to handle two NASCAR races on the oval and one on the street. Granted, one on the two on oval and street are two different things, but still,
Very much so.
that's an area that handles a lot of race traffic. I'm trying to think of other Miami, only one NASCAR race, and that's out in Homestead, so not really the same there. Yeah, that's really the only real comparisons that you can go with.
Mhm.
Yeah. Uh, Visa Cash App RV using recycled carbon fiber molds for Imola.
I think this makes them the second team to use
Yeah,
recycled carbon fiber. McLaren was the first, and again last week became the first team to win with recycled carbon fiber. So getting recycled carbon fiber some good PR.
does this make the cars go fast, slow, no effects?
It's just sustainability, really. I
Mm-hmm.
believe. I don't think it impacts the actual car at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's just more sustainable, which, I ironic for the traveling circus that is Formula One,
Mm-hmm.
um, to be on such a or to imagine themselves on such a high road sustainability wise. It is good to see, getting that carbon footprint down, because with Formula One, it is a lot more of the traveling stuff
That's the issue.
that's the issue rather than the actual cars. But still, getting the carbon footprint of the cars lower, it does help.
Yeah. Uh,
Mm.
okay, so that's
Yeah, do you want to
interesting.
go with the next
Yeah.
piece of news, Andrew? Because I
Haas
don't know
first.
anything about this.
So Gunther Steiner sued Haas for, I think, terminating his contract early or something
Mhm.
or whatever. And then Haas is just suing Gunther for using their trademarks in his book for, I
Huh.
don't know. It was just it's confusing and feels like unnecessary, and just don't be better people is the only thing that I can say.
Yeah.
You, Ethan, do you want to talk about the
Yeah. I'll
eight
take the next
different
two.
thingy things?
Yes, the 8 different things. So, Ferrari, a week after a race weekend after McLaren introduced a major upgrade package, Ferrari is introducing a major upgrade package. Mercedes is finishing up their upgrade package that we've already seen bits and pieces of. But this Ferrari upgrade package is supposedly We've heard chatter that it's gonna shave like a real noticeable amount of time off of the lap times, which, is that not the goal? So good for Ferrari there. There's, I guess, some hope, maybe even into the wishful thinking territory of now McLaren, Ferrari, and Red Bull are gonna have some crazy three-headed race down the stretch of the season. Let's pump the brakes on that. But this upgrade could mean big things for Ferrari. There are essentially 8 new elements on the car. So I'm not a technical expert, but there's a really good article on motorsport.com by Matt Sommerfeld, something like that, about all of the 8 key changes that Ferrari is making to its car. So go read that if you're interested in it. But yeah, pretty exciting. Could mean big things. And then the next piece of news, no hard news here, but Zhou Guanyu, he's being connected to Haas. And we already know that Nico Hulkenberg is going over to Sauber. Oliver Behrman, I mean, it seems, again, nothing has been announced, but it seems quite logical to assume that he's going to take one of the Haas seats for next year. And then the way that Kevin Magnussen is driving, um, I don't know if that's a guy that Haas wants to keep around. And Zhou, he's a fine driver. He's, good for a team like Haas, really. He keeps his nose clean the majority of the time. And I could really see that happening. I mean, Haas needs money. Zhou has,
The big money.
yeah, I mean, Zhou brings a lot of money into the team. So it would, if Behrman and Zhou were to come to Haas, it would be a completely new duo for Haas. But Haas kind of needs that. Like, this is a new era of Haas. Steiner's out of there. This is Ao Komatsu's team now, and into a new era as well soon for all of F1 with the regulation changes in 2026. This is kind of a move that I would actually like to see, the good old switcheroony with Hulkenberg going to Sauber and Joe going over to Haas. Love to see that, but it just makes sense for the teams. I think that Joe, if he didn't have a seat in F1 next year, I don't think he would be like a disgrace or anything. So he's not some amazing driver, but for a team like Haas, he has value for them. And he's a driver who would be fine with going to Haas, I would assume. So I could definitely see that rumor coming to fruition. And there's a decent amount of smoke. And when there's this much smoke, there's usually fire.
Yeah, and a French car on the side of the road. Yeah, I guess you
Wait,
can
what
do
was that?
Yeah, French car on the side of the road.
Oh, Alpine?
Could be.
Okay.
Could be Jeremy Clarkson driving a French car. Who knows?
Gotta love Jeremy Clarkson driving French cars.
Yeah,
I have no idea where this has gone.
me neither. Um, but anyway, a new feature film documenting Cadillac Racing's return to Le Mans. I think this is, well, I don't remember. I thought it might be on Amazon Prime. I don't remember. It was a while ago when I put this in. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see because Cadillac Racing with the new not GT car rules, type LMP rules that are being called GTP and hypercar because people want to name things odd in the world.
Huh,
But
this
yeah,
is interesting. It's
they're
going to
going.
be um viewers. This is from Car and Driver. Viewers can see the full documentary starting on May 31st via Samsung Galaxy apps and Samsung Smart TVs. So it's going to be, I guess Samsung is launching, or maybe they've already launched and I
Yeah,
just don't know. They have Samsung TV, so this is going to be on Samsung TV. That's kind of interesting.
yeah. Oh, that will be interesting. But it'd be interesting to see how if it's more of a film or just a documentary.
As someone that doesn't own anything Samsung, I gotta say, huh.
Yeah, yeah. I'm found the article now from May 9th. Yeah, I'll be interesting to see more of a feature film or a documentary. Um, I I do like um it'll be interesting to see. Also, additionally, Haggerty will stream the documentary for worldwide audience on its Facebook page.
Huh,
So
okay.
yeah, be interesting. I I might see that. Probably not, but I'd like to.
Yep.
Yeah. It's interesting Cadillac Racing returning for a while. I don't know how long. Longer than I've known sports cars, which has been like 5 years. Yeah.
And now for next week's race previews.
Finally, we're getting
Preview
into the
time.
previews. Indy 500 qualifying's this week. One car will go home. I know this is not an official prediction, but Ethan and I are going to predict that car going home. And I think, based on this driver doesn't have much experience on ovals. He hasn't been great this year. The team is normally good on the Indy 500, but in a third car, I don't love. I'm gonna say Christian Rasmussen goes home. Be the car
Uh,
missing the field.
I'll say sure. I didn't know that we were predicting this.
Yeah,
So whatever you say sounds good to me.
you're being boring in the same thing. This is the one time where you can say Alex Palou goes home with no repercussion.
Okay, Alex Palou is going home.
Well, you didn't have to just go off my example, but
Okay,
whatever.
fine. Wow, dude. Okay, okay. Who's going home? Who's going home? Who's going home? Is there anyone I should know about in the Indy 500? Like, do we have another Fernando Alonso? Obviously not Fernando Alonso, but do we have a Fernando Alonso type?
Kyle Larson, that's really the closest thing you can do.
Let's say Kyle Larson's going home. Wouldn't that be hilarious?
Well,
I
it
don't
would
actually
be,
think he is, but
it would be a McLaren driver going home. So, yeah,
I mean,
that happened to Alonso. So, mm. I
oh
do
no,
think
he's dying or something. That was
I
a
do
weird sound.
well, unlike last time, I do think that they painted the car the right color. Like
Well, that's always good, isn't it?
that's they didn't do that the time Fernando got bumped, but yeah, that's all for Indy 500 qualifying. Ethan, talk about
Oh wait, no.
Imola.
Podcast legend Santino Ferrucci. Why would I not think of him? He's the one going home.
Yeah. Okay. That you all right. I'll accept that. Um, Ethan, talk about Imola. And will it rain out this time?
No, my sources, I don't have sources, are telling me that it will not be like a flooding natural disaster in the Emilia-Romagna region of Italy this go around. So that is always great to hear. Imola is a tight track, lots of medium to slow speed corners, some mostly. McLaren in recent years, Lando Norris specifically, has been amazing there. And after some momentum from a win, that's exciting. Mercedes, specifically George Russell, even back to his Williams days, has had some bad races, and just bad luck, and but mostly like just poor drives at Imola. Remember when he just crashed into the wall randomly under the safety car there? That was a thing he did. But yeah, Mercedes hasn't been great there. I mean, in what was it, 22? Max lapped Lewis there. So I mean, yeah, Max is probably gonna run away with it. The Ferraris should be good, the McLarens should be good. So yeah, I mean, kind of obvious the good cars should be good, but
Wow.
there should be, I would expect more of a separation from the rest of the pack this weekend, with Mercedes having a really poor weekend.
All right. You heard it first. We're going to hold Ethan accountable to his words. Mercedes having a bad weekend. No comment from Ethan there. He's scared, obviously.
Oh, I didn't know I was supposed to.
I don't know. Gotta love
I said my
Zoom
piece.
podcasts where I try to make a joke and it lands like Ryanair. Anyway, moving on to NASCAR, you've got Cup running the All-Star race, trucks running their thing, regular race for points. Xfinity off this weekend. You've got 37 cars this week if you include the open cars in the race. The extra car, Timmy Hill for MBM or Power Source, whatever you want to call them. Whatever I don't know what their official name is, but yeah. 15 this week is Casgraw, 16 will be Allmendinger, who is guaranteed. So yeah. SVG, who if I wanted to start a NASCAR team with equipment, I could be guaranteed into the All-Star race if I hired SVG. So yeah. No one picked him up, which is unfortunate. But anyway, yeah. Kevin Harvick's practicing for Kyle Larson for the race because Kyle Larson's in Indianapolis. But Larson will be back. And they have a hard tire, soft tire this weekend, which they aren't calling hard and soft because they want to give it names that are weird. Yay, NASCAR. In terms of the truck race, notable entries this week are Brandon Queen in the 1 truck for Tricon, the 5th truck there. I'm trying to think who else. You have Chastain's in the 45 this week for second week in a row, I believe. Jack Wood in the 10, Sammy Smith in the 7. 22, I don't think anyone's in the 22. Part-time cars, you have Stephen Parsons showing up. Dawson Sutton for the new second Rackley War entry. Roper Racing fielding saw a truck for Clayton Green. Trey Hutchins fielding his own truck for himself. You have Memphis. No, you don't have Memphis. I don't. And Connor Jones in the 66. Oh, Eric Almirola in the 16 for Hattori. First truck start for him in a while, and first start for Hattori this year. Also, you have Justin Carroll in his truck. Last time Eric Almirola was raced in a truck was 2012, driving for Waters Motorsports, and which that team doesn't exist anymore. Rip. But anyway, it's time for the picks.
And now for next week's race picks.
Our favorite segment of the show.
Real and true. You want to go over last weekend first?
You do that. I'm not happy about it for reasons.
Is it because me
Because
winning
of
by
no,
nearly 10
because of
points?
the two races that I have highlighted on the left.
Well, we'll start off with IMSA GTP Laguna Seca, the 31 of Whelen Cadillac, which who picked last week? Was that your dad?
Yes, that was my dad.
Shout out Mr. Hazlett. Whelen Cadillac, the 31, finished ahead of the 01 Cadillac and the 7 Porsche. 1 point guessed. The 50 or the 77 AO something
Porsche,
car.
the dyno
Porsche.
car, Rexy.
That one GTD Pro at Laguna Seca. Me and Andrew both picking up 5.
Because you copied me, because the car you originally picked wasn't racing.
Thank you for the points. IMSA GTD, my pick, as well as Mr. Hazlett's pick of the 57 Windward, 1. So 5 points us. And then the 6 Porsche finished ahead of the number 7 Toyota for WEC Hypercar, another point Mr. Hazlett, and then a point for me for the 92 Manthey LMG T3 finishing ahead of the 55 Vista AF course Ferrari. That probably is.
Yeah,
And the 27 Heart of Racing, not sure what car that is. Aston. The 92 Manthey is a Porsche, by the way. I didn't mention that.
Yeah.
And then Indianapolis, round 1. Andrew picked Louis Foster. I picked Nolan Siegel. Andrew's dad picked Nolan Siegel. Nolan Siegel did finish ahead of Louis Foster. And did Jacob Abel win that, I assume?
Why, yes, he did.
Why, yes, he did. Well, that's disappointing.
Andrew knows wheel, but he
because-
doesn't know how to do wheel.
Because Andrew picked Jacob Abel for the second race and
I'm
Louis Foster for the first race. And Louis Foster won the second race. And you know who else? You know who picked Louis Foster for the second race? I did. Me. 5 points to me, extending the lead. But those 5 points gained gets canceled out because Alex Pillow won the Indianapolis road course race ahead of my pick of Willpower and Pato Award. For the truck series, Grant Enfinger finished ahead of Kyle Busch. And then
My
Justin
dad picked
Allgaier
that one.
won Xfinity, and Denny Hamlin finished ahead of William Byron and Martin Truex for a point for you.
My dad got Allgaier as well.
Yeah.
Giving credit where credit's due here, since you seem to stop doing that. But I just want to go back to Indy next.
Your dad
My
had
pick-
really good predictions for the weekend. That's good for him.
Well, he didn't get as many as you did in terms
No,
of
but,
points, but
you
he beat
know,
me.
Respectable.
But with Indy next. I've had the right 2 drivers. I just had them in the wrong races. That should have got me something at least. If I had them switched around. Let's be honest here. That would have gained me 10 points. Would have lost you guys each out on a point. Then again, Ethan, you picked Foster because I picked him in the first race. So you would have picked Foster in the first race instead of the second race, which would have netted you 6 less points. My dad 1 less point, and me 10 more points. And with all that quick math, I would be leading.
Womp womp.
That's the only response that you should have gave, and I respect that.
Thank
And,
you.
this week I had one of my friends do it, who, if I can figure out things, he might be a Zoom podcast guest. Keywords might. But anyway, he picked for trucks Corey Heim, and for trucks I'm picking Ross Chastain.
Mm-hmm.
I was go ahead, say your pick.
Well, no, you say your thing first.
Say your pick first.
Okay. The best name of all time, Butterbean Queen. What?
Yeah.
Huh? Like, huh? What? I
Now
stole that from Andrew, and I don't mind saying it. Like, Andrew, you could have picked him too still, but I mean, you write Butterbean Queen. I have to pick that because I just have to say that my pick is someone named Butterbean Queen. I like, is he a regular in the truck series? Because I
no,
would pick him for every single race if he
no,
is.
this is his like first truck race, I think.
Okay.
And
But like, where has he been?
so the reason why I picked him is because why I was going to pick him. His name was Butterbean. I was gonna let uh, you and the guest have an opportunity to gain points on me because realistically, he's gonna finish like 18th or 16th or something.
I couldn't care less.
But I'm like, you could have the free points, but no. So I'm not. And also, my old nickname was Butterbean, like when I was like 6.
Huh.
And now my dad
Butterbean is-
but it's been shortened to Bean by my dad. He's the only one that calls me that. But
Well,
yeah,
I've said you look like a string bean.
yeah,
So, similar, right?
yeah, I guess so. For Cup, the guest and I went Denny Hamlin. Great
William
short track
Byron
driver.
for me.
Why William Byron?
Because I know absolutely nothing about racing at North Wilkesboro, and William Byron is my guy. I mean, the statistic, remember the Denny Hamlin William
Yeah,
statistic? I mean, that's been pretty clutch for me. I mean,
he
really
got
only
you.
one
You picked him
time, but
twice last week. He got
I
you
did.
0 points.
He did, but like that's fine, like you can't always win. Like that's just the truth of it. Like it would be nice if you could always win, but only Max Verstappen can always win.
Yeah. Moving over to F2. I'm just gonna say the guest my pick because we swapped drivers. The guest went Paul around for the sprint, Zane Maloney for the main. I went Zane Maloney for the sprint, Paul around for the main race. So we'll see how those predictions age.
So
1-2 in the championship.
how
Ethan, speak.
how I do my pick points is the night before the podcast at about 3 a.m. before I go to bed, I write my picks on my notes app on my phone with some spots still open that I decide before we start recording if I call an audible, like Butterbean Queen. That was an audible. But I had Zane Maloney and Paul Aaron. I did. But I am sometimes, most of the time, all the time, a man of integrity and fairness. So I changed things up. Kimi Antonelli, first quote unquote win, sprint race win in his home country. Book it, Vince. And then the main race, Dennis Hauger. He's been really, really good this year, and he has so much talent. He's as good of a pick as any to win at Imola. in
Mhm.
my opinion.
For F1, I'm well, the guest went Verstappen, Sainz, Norris. Norris always good there. I did
Yeah.
not go that route. I went Verstappen, Leclerc, Perez. Was good. Well, in 2022 he finished second. So
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm
Um,
going with Eclair because I like Eclairs.
yeah, going from your switching it up. Normally a big Carlos Sainz guy.
Mhm.
I picked Verstappen as well, huge surprise, and then I picked Leclerc and Norris, because Norris does really good there, and I think that the Ferrari upgrades are going to be massive. And I mean, Charles isn't bad there either.
Yeah. Norris will finish fourth.
I wouldn't be surprised if he finished second.
Yeah. Anyway, it's been the Loose Wheel Podcast, episode 19, season 2.
I feel like a loose wheel right now.
Okay, that's random. Anyway, goodbye,
We're
people of
supposed
the
to
world.
laugh.
Yeah, Zoom jokes just aren't fun. I don't know. Anyway, bye.
Bye.
You stay.
I'll stay, but bye to the audience.
Yes.
To me, it looked like he actually lost the wheel.
The wheel for Ross Chastain is still and perfect.
Wheel on the track.
Could you leave the wheel loose?
You picked a fine time to leave me loose, wheel.